Hey guys, welcome to A Little Help for Our Friends, the podcast for people with loved ones struggling with mental health. Hello, little helpers. Today we have an episode that was requested by one of you, and it was a great suggestion. The episode was Rejection Sensitivity Dysphoria and its connection to ADHD. And I think this is a very timely episode because I happened to cry in my supervisor's office earlier today because of ADHD.
Are you?
So
Oh my God. Okay. Let's get into it.
we'll talk about it, but kicking it over to you for Cooler Mind.
Jeez. You always kick it over to me when after you drop a bomb. Um, yeah, really exciting news. We have officially launched the Cool of Mind community. It's been a long time coming, but it's the origins are from when we taught this at Duke to loved ones of people with intense emotions. So it's this community that we built for you guys. It's a place where you can learn all the different skills that we talk about, like how to set boundaries with toxic family members or partners or other people in your life, how to understand emotions and how to make them work for you, how to stay calm and how to deal with like emotional crises. So it's really for anybody who has someone in their life struggling with emotions or just kind of like to learn about relationship and mental health skills in general. So I'll put the link in our show notes. So if you just want to learn a little bit more or curious and want to talk to me about it, our website is coolamind.com, KULAMIND.com, and the link will be in the show notes where you can learn more about the community. And next week we start the actual course. So it'll be like a weekly live course where we'll do in-depth learning about how to actually apply these skills, how to validate, set those boundaries, speak up for yourself, and all these different ways that we support each other and actually practicing them in our daily life. So you get like one-on-one, step-by-step help through actually how to do these skills, how to set boundaries and stuff. So it's really
Yeah, and
exciting.
very relevant to our topic today, I
Yeah.
would say. I have a lot of thoughts about this. But first of all, Kibby, do you think that I have rejection sensitive dysphoria?
Yeah, I do. I do. So back in my social psychology days at Columbia, there was this amazing researcher named Geraldine Downey who does everything about rejection sensitivity. So I've always heard about rejection sensitivity in terms of like as just like a trait that we have, someone who is more sensitive or scared or reacts strongly to being socially rejected. But the dysphoria part, I feel like it's kind of new. I feel like now people are talking about it all over the place. And I
Agreed.
feel like it just happened in the past like year, maybe like since COVID, not surprisingly. But I want to know why you have suddenly heard more about this too.
Um, I've been hearing about it for a few years and
Really?
always in the context of ADHD. And
Huh.
I'm pretty, I mean, we're going to talk about why it's specific to ADHD, but I'm still a little bit not totally convinced, I
Hmm.
guess. I mean, I'm convinced that it's a thing because there's lots of evidence that it's a thing. It seems to be very, very connected to ADHD, but I don't understand why the specificity is there. It seems to me like something that I can see being a common occurrence in people with ADHD, but I don't understand why it's not seen just as often in many, many other disorders.
So we'll figure out, we'll break apart what RSD actually is and why it's connected to ADHD. But
Yeah.
should we give a general definition? Should we?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say like rejection sensitivity dysphoria is kind of referring to this intense social pain experienced um, sort of in anticipation of, during, or after criticism or rejection. It can feel literally like physical. People can get stomach aches, headaches, feel, like get really flushed, cry, and it can take a while to come down from. But I think what I've seen it described as is like really intense in the moment. And oftentimes a story can get attached to it. So, if my boss criticizes me for something, then it means will never succeed, I'll get fired, yada yada. People with RSD can kind of live in anticipation of criticism or rejection and adjust their behavior around it, meaning they might avoid situations where they could be criticized. So that could mean either extreme people pleasing, or it could mean not trying new things where they might fail. It could mean not meeting new people, like all sorts of avoidance behaviors. Um, I think what supposedly differentiates RSD from just rejection sensitivity or not liking rejection is the intensity of the pain in that moment. What would you add?
I would just think that that is the definition of shame.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't this shame? Isn't this intense shame? Like,
Yeah.
isn't this, I mean, we went from like sadness to depression, fear to like anxiety, and now we're going from like shame to rejection sensitivity or sensitive dysphoria. And to be clear for everyone, like I had to look into this. This is not an official diagnosis. It just
Mhm.
seems to be like maybe a trans diagnostic, if you will, syndrome, like almost a symptom of like this really intense despair in response to rejection or criticism. I just feel like it's shame. So, do you know why this is different from feeling
No,
intense shame?
honestly, reading this research, it feels anemic to me. I'm like, this isn't a very convincing construct to me. I mean, I think for one thing, because it's literally talking about just a degree of something. Like, it's kind of like saying everybody, when they touch a stove, it hurts, but some people it really hurts and they have dysphoria. I don't know, there's just something kind of lacking for me in that. And I agree, it is hard to see any difference between this and shame, which is also just pain at perceived rejection.
Yeah, I mean, when I was reading about it, I was like, wait a minute. This also describes avoidant personality disorder. This
Right.
also describes extreme social anxiety. And this
BPD.
also describes like BPD. We could talk about maybe the differences. Borderline personality disorder, as we talk about, is, a lot of it is around avoidance of abandonment and shame and rejection. There seems to be a little bit more of like an impulsivity up and down response with BPD. Like the pain might be there, but it might be like so dysregulating that they do all sorts of stuff, like the highs and the lows, the idealist, right? It feels like a little bit more
Hmm.
roller coastery versus like the RSD sounds like I had this like intense like period of sadness, but not necessarily the explosion of BPD. But
Yeah.
can you pick apart what this
No,
is?
this is my problem. I'm reading this and I cannot figure out why it's specific to ADHD. I can see why people with ADHD have it, but I can't figure out why people with ADHD have it and any other disorder wouldn't. I mean, even looking at the reasons given, it's like, oh, well, people with ADHD have different connectivity between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, where the prefrontal cortex isn't able to regulate the overactive amygdala. And I'm like, yeah, that's the case in so many other disorders too.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and maybe there's a little bit of a different circuitry with it, but that explanation alone is not specific at all to ADHD. And then, um, I mean, I think I've it's also making the claim that like it is interesting when you read ADHD, there's no emotion dysregulation symptom criteria. And yet, I think it could easily be considered an emotion regulation issue, right? Like if you skip from project to project, if you can't organize, if let's just start with those two, like that might indicate an intolerance of boredom or frustration, for instance, like intolerance of certain emotional experiences. Um, so it's not surprising that there's like an emotion regulation aspect there, but I think I think what's bothering me a little bit is that like ADHD is called a neurodivergent disorder in part because it's not just emotion dysregulation. There's something about attention and focus and the supposedly like attentional systems work differently. Is that in any way related to shame or rejection? The only connection I can see, which has been made in the literature over and over, is that if you if you have attentional issues, focus issues, impulsivity issues, you are likely to get repeatedly criticized. And that might make you more prone to fearing that criticism and more sensitive to it. That's like how I feel. But I also think that's true of any other disorder, so I don't get it. But it is
Yeah.
specifically linked in the research.
I mean, yeah, if you have trouble in school because you're disorganized, if you can't hold down a job, can't, your ADHD symptoms make you smart and creative, but yet prevent you from the, traditionally prestigious jobs of being a lawyer, doctor, anything that requires like really focused concentration, then yeah, in this society and many other societies, people with ADHD will feel a lot of shame, feel a lot of rejection, and almost like maybe there's just a lot more um, room to criticize someone with ADHD versus anything else, right? Like if you're depressed, you're probably, hopefully, not going to get as much criticism of your depressive symptoms as if you were bad at school,
True.
right? So
Yeah.
there's like an evaluation, there's like a socially acceptable, like, I can criticize you for being messy and not doing your homework. It's
Hmm.
harder to criticize you for having like trauma symptoms. Still happens, but you know what I mean? Like there's like like
Yeah.
tell me about you being, your supervising moment. Like what happened there?
I mean, it's funny because I'm going on this rant, but like this is a great example of RSD in action and ADHD. But I basically, I had a professor, sorry, I had a supervisor who wanted to watch one of my sessions with a patient, and he did, and he gave me really, really good feedback. And I was kind of on a high from that. And then I come back to my desk, and earlier in the day, a supervisor had said, "Can we meet at 3 p.m. tomorrow?" But I thought her message had come in the day before. Or no, sorry, sorry. I thought her message had come in that morning, but it had actually come in the day before. So I thought we were meeting at 3 p.m. tomorrow, not 3 p.m. today. And so she was like, "Hey, are you still free?" So I came down, and admittedly, I've had some scheduling snafus with this supervisor before. Um, I think in part she's really young. She's like just out of postdoc. I think I'm not like she's only supervising me on like some groups that don't like require a lot of collaboration or like depth or whatever. So I think I've been kind of not taking that as seriously as some others. And I kind of came in, she was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "Fine." It's like, "How are you doing with the workload?" I'm like, "Good. It's, more intense than it has been all year, but because I just got an influx of patients." And basically, she was tiptoeing around the idea that like something's up with me because I keep being disorganized and kind of talking about it, and I can just feel the tears coming, and then they did, and it was embarrassing. She was extremely nice, I mean, it wasn't anything. I didn't feel reject. I think that's the other thing about I don't I I don't I'm sensitive to criticism. I don't know if that's the same thing as rejection to me necessarily. I think there could be an argument for it, but I don't necessarily feel like she was rejecting me so much as um maybe indicating though that there's a behavior of mine that could get me rejected. I don't know. It seems like it's a mediator more than like the actual thing. Whatever. The point is, I cried a little bit and it was hard. It was kind of hard to calm down. And it was frustrating because I'm like, I am not that emotionally attached to my organizational abilities. Like the supervisor telling me I did a good job in my session was far, far more important to me than somebody saying like you're not organized. Like being organized is not something that I need to be part of my self-concept. But I will say that I do cry very easily if ADHD specific behaviors are what are being called out. And I feel like I'm more regulated in other, like if it's I actually might be more regulated if you called out my clinical skills than my organizational skills, even though I care more about my clinical skills.
Why do you think that is? I have seen you get equally upset when other parts of you are criticized. So I'm like wondering if that's true. But
It might
what
not.
about
The ADHD stuff makes me feel helpless, and it's like something you hear so repeatedly, and it seems to never get better, even
mm,
though I think it has. But yeah, I'm just like, oh, here we go again. Like, yet again, I've been found out.
mm,
And I don't, and they'll be like, what kind of systems do you have in place? I'm like, I don't know, Google Calendar. Like, the whole part of my whole fucking problem is that I don't like to be organized. I don't like organizational systems. They make me crazy. I keep falling back on them. It's just another thing added to my plate. It doesn't help me actually get organized. It's just one more thing to fail at. So I never have a good answer for it. I can't handle the medication, so I don't have that to help me. I'm just kind of like trying to skate by. I mean,
you
I think a lot of the times when you've seen me get criticized, it's around things like being self-focused or inconsiderate, which I also think can relate back to ADHD. But yeah, like bachelor rejection shit hit me very, very hard. Um, and that's not related to ADHD. So
hmm, hmm. So if it's a helpless thing, like you feel helpless, you feel like you can't do anything about the organizational stuff. Mm. But it's not something that it's part of your self-concept. Why do you think it hurts you so much? I could be like, oh, I'm going to criticize you for not having blonde hair. Oh, look how dark your hair is, right? I mean, actually, you could probably change that more easily than ADHD. But like, tell me why feeling rejected and criticized for ADHD is something that hits so hard. If that's not something that you care about as much.
I mean, I think if 50 different people told me that it was gross that I have brown hair, then I would probably feel similarly. ADHD stuff is something that's noticed by a lot of different people.
Right.
And it feels like my Achilles heel that keeps being like, oh, there it is. What, what's going on there with your Achilles heel? Have you done anything to heal it?
Mm,
How can I heal it? When I'm like, I don't fucking know how you can help me be more organized. That's not your job. Like, I
yeah,
don't know what to tell you.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, and I think the reason I started off with the story of my first supervisor telling me that I did a good job is there's something about ADHD which makes me feel like no matter how well I do or how far I climb, this is always going to tear me back down again.
Hmm. I see. I see. So it's like the it's the albatross is the thing that holds you
Yeah,
back no matter how much you like excel in these other areas, then being knocked down for this is a bummer.
yeah.
So when you feel this dysphoria from feeling rejected for ADHD, do you like what does it feel like? Do you have any of these symptoms of RSD or does it feel different as we're talking about physically or change your behavior differently than any other kind of rejection?
I find this difficult to answer. It feels to me like saying, what does it feel like when you touch a stove? Like when I'm criticized, I feel bad. My cheeks get hot.
Hmm.
I I feel exposed and vulnerable. I think that's also part of it too, is like, oh yeah, like you found it. You found my perennial weakness. Like I don't have a good answer for this. I don't know what to say about it. It's just it's an exposed kind of feeling. But yeah, it's this gross kind of like, oh no, 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 no feeling. And I blush and tears immediately. It's always tears. Um, I guess probably hit in my chest,
Hmm.
stomach. But I guess I just feel like that's what shame feels like. So it feels
Yeah.
weird. That's what RSD feels like. And everybody has shame.
Everyone listening, do us a favor and um, if you have experienced RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, this intense pain, can you send us a message? There's in the show notes, if you look back on the show notes, there's a thing thing that on the top says send us a text. Can you send us a message telling us what this feels like and if it feels any different from any other kind of rejection, emotional pain, or I just really want to hear more people talking about this, just because, yeah, I mean, like shame is so painful. It's so painful that I remember in one of our emotion classes taking grad school, it's interesting. The teacher was saying, shame is the emotion that regulates us even before we feel it. Like
Hmm.
we are so socially conscious. Like it is so important for us to be connected to a group um, and not alone, that we are doing it. We're listening to shame without even feeling it. We are not running around naked in the middle of the streets singing our favorite songs, like pooping on the streets because of shame, right? And like we don't even think, right, that there's so many things that we do in order to be like to abide by social norms.
Yeah.
um and so I get that shame is just such an intense emotion. I do feel like we do so much to not feel it because it's so painful, right? Like we get angry, we blame, we figure out who else is toxic, we, like go to the people pleasing, which is more like that fear response. Um, yeah, so I don't know, if I'm just wondering if like the feeling of shame is getting overwhelming. Maybe because even COVID, we've been so isolated that so much of social stuff has gotten messed up, right? Like we're not taking as much risks. Like people are on their phones all day. They're not like dealing with the world as much. So there's a lot of social withdrawal across the board. I mean, oh my God, the Gen Z is screwed. That they're just like sitting in their rooms all day looking at Instagram, right? Like talk about like being locked in shame and not doing approach to it. So I don't know. I think I'm just puzzling over. Like I would
I
just
mean,
love to
do
do a
you,
research study on
do
this.
you have RSD?
I was wondering that before we talked, and it was funny because, thinking about it as a connection to ADHD. So I don't know if I feel um, the same rejection or criticism. Like I don't feel as bad about my ADHD. I feel like
Hmm.
I've gotten a lot of people have made fun of me over the years. They've called me space cadet. I think I've maybe because I've lived in anxiety, I've regulated my ADHD with a lot of anxiety and a lot of hyper focus. So I've got a lot of like people have made so much fun of me for my hyper focus. Like when I play a
Yeah.
video game, when I do one thing, when I'm walking down the street, I'll focus to the point where everything else disappears. And I feel like people have made fun of me for that. But I
Hmm.
don't know, but I think I've made it work enough that I don't know if it's I don't know. I just don't feel the same like sting. However, even especially when I'm on my Vyvanse, when I'm on my medication, I feel RSD. Like I feel the sense of worthlessness more.
On Vyvanse?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, maybe because okay, so if we're talking about it as just like an emotion regulation problem, linked to ADHD, right? If regulating emotions takes a lot of the thinking skills, right? To be able to go, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so sad, but let me direct my attention to things that are not about the sad thing. Let me actually like shift gears and go take a walk. And, being able to regulate yourself and take control over your actions is like an intentional prefrontal cortex thing. So if you have less of it, your emotions are like exploding all over the
Hmm.
place. Um, and I don't know, like I think maybe it's because my hyper focus, but when I'm actually on Vyvanse and I start to have a thought, my like normal automatic thoughts, I'm getting so much more aware of because of this podcast, where I'm like, I'm worthless. Oh, if I don't do this, I'm terrible. Like why did I even think I could do this? Why did I even think I could run a business? Why could I think of doing this? Like, why do I even try? I'm like, people can see that I'm broken inside and then they're going to hate me. And so I just have
Good Lord.
I have those thoughts all the time. And then when on Vyvanse, it's like persistent and impairing. Like I will sit there for hours trying to battle these thoughts of like, I'm worthless. I'm always going to be a failure. I'll never do anything successful. I'll never do anything successfully that I don't even, I'm trying to like say them out loud and I don't know how they feel. Like it
Hmm.
just feels like the self-hate of like,
Hmm.
you'll never be good enough. You're never that, you don't have what it takes. You don't have what it takes. You don't have what it takes. That's my, and then I think like the Vyvanse makes me lock into that thought. So
Yeah, I was gonna,
how
because,
do I deal with that?
well, one of the
Well,
reasons
one
I
of
felt like maybe I cried today also was that I'm switching over to Prozac, and Prozac has a slight stimulant quality. And when I'm on stimulants, which I am extremely sensitive to, that's why I don't take them, I feel more emotionally dysregulated. And it's just a pin drop could get me to kind of unravel.
interesting.
My
The
nerves
stimulant.
feel frayed, and so I could see that having something to do with the Vyvanse thing. I also wonder if it's you when you are on Vyvanse, yeah, you're so locked into your sphere of like productivity and doing this, and you can't find your way out of it as easily. And so all of that work is associated with those thoughts. It would be interesting to see, we should look into the studies and see if these people were medicated or not,
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
because I could see how stimulant medication could
Make it
increase.
worse?
Yeah.
Well, that's a
But that
bummer.
would be interesting, right? Because it would be the cure for ADHD is actually causing the RSD in some sense or exacerbating the RSD.
Yeah, and we also do know that stimulant medication helps for some traits, some symptoms of ADHD, not others, right? Like it helps with the focus, but it doesn't help with organization. So it's and other kinds of behaviors like that. So it is different, I think.
Yeah.
Ooh,
It's also
tricky,
interesting
tricky
talking
stuff.
about, yeah, well, ADHD is also kind of two different disorders. You've got the inattentive subtype and the hyperactive subtype. And of course, there's a combined, but those two presentations are pretty different. So, and I could see how they would lead to rejection sensitivity in two very different ways. I mean, the hyperactive kid is going to get rejected a lot growing up, and that's going to be very painful. And they're going to be rejected by peers. I don't think the inattentive type is going to be rejected by peers nearly as much. That seems more like a work issue. Like they might get negative feedback from teachers, but I don't know why an 8-year-old kid with inattentive ADHD would face a ton of rejection from peers. I mean, it's like I could come up with theories, but it just doesn't seem like nearly the same extent as the hyperactive kid who is like bouncing off the walls and very obviously different.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, just really trying to think about that feeling after you're criticized. Like, okay, all right. Even just talking through all the different symptoms, right? It's like, as you're saying, avoiding situation, like avoiding dating, avoiding projects as soon as you feel criticized, um, and then also that how the RSD kind of brings up this um, that shame spiral of like I'm always messing up, I'm a failure, right? Um, and then it's interesting too how rejection says I think we've talked about more about this about how rejection sensitivity can actually lead to more rejection and problems in their relationships, right? Like you're you're constantly worried about relationships. You want to get reassurance. You are really anxious about your connections and whether you're going to get rejected or not. Oh, and the other thing about RSD is that if you have RS people with rejection sensitivity tend to read neutral um, uh, they tend to read neutral social information as negative, right? So if someone texts you okay period, then people with rejection sensitivity would tend to read that as like negative, like that person's mad at me.
Yeah.
Then and which now we're ripe for that because it's all about texting and emailing and really neutral like communication, which you could layer on a ton of rejection sensitivity too. So
Well, it's funny. I don't know if this is actually true, but in texting my 17-year-old stepson, he will text like happy birthday or thanks, like no emojis or like exclamation points or whatever. And somebody told me that's just how Gen Z texts now. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how is anybody supposed to understand what tone is being conveyed without some help? Um, but anyway, hey Kibby, what is it called when somebody reads more into something than there's evidence for?
Oh, it's called a negative bias. Is
Or a
that where you can
hyperventilation?
hypermentalization? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
hypermentalization, I thought it was like you're reading more things, but then plus a negative, then there's another negative bias where you're like reading more negative things, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think they go hand in hand. But I mean, if you say okay, dot, and I actually, if you said okay, period, I think I would correctly mentalize that you were pissed about something because millennials don't text like that. But if you said K and I was like, she's mad at me, that would be hypermentalizing and a negative bias. Hypermentalizing with a negative bias. Anyways, this isn't interesting to our audience. This is just
yeah.
me nerding out over my own dissertation. But the other point is like my dissertation was on this in BPD, right? Like not ADHD, another shame-based disorder. So this doesn't feel specific at all to ADHD, but yet somehow is. And part of me is like, is RSD being defined in a way where it's just not being studied in other disorders or something? Like, we know shame is specific to BPD. We know shame is a huge deal in social anxiety disorder. It makes no sense that it wouldn't be stronger in those disorders than ADHD, or at least just as strong. So I know we've kind of beat that
Yeah,
dead
I
horse,
mean,
but
I guess the I think just from reading what we read, I think it's the quality and what people do. Like, I think the quality seems to be a period of time, like the actual experience of RSD versus any other, you know, reaction to rejection sensitivity. It's this period of intense physical pain, right? Like this kind of like when you hear dysphoria, it's this very defined period of time where you feel crappy, right? Versus borderline personality disorder, um, that has a lot more like they're not like sitting there feeling sad. They're exploding. They're like begging. They're doing drugs. They're like having sex. They're like frantically doing. So I think maybe it's just like the like how that pain manifests and what you do with it is different in these
it
different
just feels like
disorders.
splitting hairs to me.
Okay, let's just call a spade a spade. Let's just say like this is just intense, dysregulated, um, painful shame that leads to a lot of avoidance. How about
Okay.
that?
I don't think it has to necessarily lead to
Good.
avoidance. It just might lead to avoidance. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, I don't feel like I avoid getting rejected socially very much. I do avoid conflict, but I don't avoid getting rejected. Like, I would put myself out there in dating situations all the time. I put myself on
Hmm.
national teams. Like, if I wanted to not get rejected, I probably shouldn't have made some of the decisions that I did. So
Hmm.
it never felt like I was anticipating, like I had a fearful anticipation of rejection. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, so it's hard, but of course sometimes I do, but I feel like sometimes everyone does. So I just don't I wouldn't say I have
Maybe
severe
you,
ADHD.
right, and like you respond to life with more approach than other people. So maybe avoidance is just less of the thing. And I'm just looking at now, I'm really looking over the common experiences of RSD connected to ADHD. A lot of rumination and self-blame, like they couldn't stop brooding over it.
Hmm.
Physical and emotional overwhelm, like as you said, that the stomach aches and headaches. Out of proportion reactions, like it feels like the end of the world when you get criticized, and avoidance of and withdrawal, right? Avoiding social situations. So it might be that like you just have some of them, but not all of them, right? You just don't have the avoidance part as much.
Yeah,
I
I mean
don't
for and this isn't like this isn't about me. I'm just saying that as an example, like I think I do have the avoidance and in some ways and other ways I don't, but that description feels like the exact same description you would give somebody with social anxiety disorder. And
Yeah,
I still am just
yeah,
not
I would
seeing,
say so.
I'm
I mean,
just
I
not
think
seeing
that
how it's
social
specific to
anxiety,
ADHD.
um, you know what? Maybe people with social, well, first of all, they could overlap, and people with social anxiety tend to, it's a focus of the fear before the social events, right? It's like social anxiety is diagnosed not because of how they feel when they get rejected. It's because they're so terrified and they might not even get rejected at all, right? They're just so scared of it before. So if
Yeah.
social anxiety is the problem of before, RSD is the problem of after, right?
Yeah, I think that's the best argument we're going to give for it. I mean, I still think it's just riddled with bullet holes because we talk about RSD as having an anticipatory component also. And I think when people with social anxiety disorder do get rejected, they are going to feel that very intensely. But I think we should go with your idea there because I just can't think of anything better.
Let's let's play around with potential um, interventions, like
Okay.
therapeutic interventions. So I was wondering, as we were talking, I was wondering the different ways that we could regulate that shame. And I was thinking of like opposite action, where, you know, we just the opposite action to shame is kind of what AA teaches its people. Stand up, say, I am Kibby and I am alcoholic, right? To like be, instead of like hiding, but be forthcoming. So there's
Mhm.
that one. And there's also cognitive strategies of thinking about maybe different alternative hypotheses for the rejection. Like if you're reading like, oh, that person hates me because they texted me okay, period. Maybe there's other things that they're thinking, or maybe they're not rejecting me. So there's that cognitive flexibility. Which one do you
I
like
read,
better? I want to do it with you. That's what I want to.
I think this is a package deal. I think
All
there are
right,
each 2-second interventions and you can do both. I mean,
all right, Jacqueline,
what
do it.
in the
Hey,
yeah.
you're really disorganized. You're really bad at scheduling, and whenever we schedule something, like it is a crapshoot whether you're going to make it, and you just can't do it. You're not very good at it. Very disorganized person.
It's not very nice. Um,
Do you feel
I
it? Do you feel it at all? Do you?
no, not really, because I know what you're doing. But I mean, maybe a tiny twinge, whether it's the crapshoot that I'll make it. But I don't know. Okay, whatever. Um, so a good reframe that I read was that if somebody like at work criticizes you, it might not be that they think you're stupid and unforgivably, you know, I have unforgivable deficits, but that they actually trust that you are capable of improving. And otherwise, they wouldn't give the feedback if it didn't seem like there was something you could do with it. So, just in receiving feedback, it means that the other person has some faith in you.
Oh no, I don't have no faith in you. I feel like you're going to be disorganized forever. It's going to really hold you back in life. It's going to hold you back in your future practice. It's going to affect the way people see you. I have no hope that you can improve on this. How am I doing as a behavioral therapist?
By
You were
other
so
interpretation, Kitty's a bitch. Shouldn't be
blamed.
listened.
Okay, cool. Turn it into anger. Yeah, that's worked.
Oh, Kibby's having a bad day today. You know, she's taking it out on me for some reason. But man, am I feeling some shame in this moment? I think I know what this feeling is. It's familiar to me. I mean, look, like in earlier today, I basically said to her, it's ADHD, and then I started like tearing up, and I just tried to acknowledge my side of the street in a sense, even in the emotion, like even in just in the emotional reaction. I was like, "You're super nice. You're totally fine. I wish I weren't having this reaction, but it'll pass," or something like that. And then afterwards, I really didn't dwell on it very long. I think it was more, I've gotten pretty good at diffusion in a sense, at just being like, look, like me ruminating about this isn't gonna do anything. I mean, I've cried in front of supervisors before. It's never led to anything terrible. Everyone I know has cried in front of supervisors. What is me worrying about this going to accomplish? Nothing. Um,
Mhm.
so just kind of being like, whatever, I just let it go. I don't know that I needed to. I mean, I guess the it's not really a reframe, but it's at least just bringing down catastrophic thinking to say like, yeah, I already know this about myself. I already know. One more person noticed the thing that is very noticeable and always has been. Cool. Like that's not news. Um,
So
it doesn't mean. Uh-huh.
what you're doing is, I would say, like partway opposite action. It's a little bit more of emotional acceptance, right? You're accepting that this feels painful when you got criticized. I'm
Hmm.
wondering what happens if you go all the way opposite action and say it openly and proudly. Do you remember the Friends episode where um, Phoebe and the girls were criticizing each other, and like Phoebe was like, "Oh, Rachel, you're a pushover," and Monica, you're high maintenance, and they went into a tizzy, and they came back and they were so mad, and they were like, "Well, Phoebe, you are flaky," and she was like, "Yeah, I am. I'm flaky."
He's the best.
Yeah. What if you Phoebe'd it and just went like, "Yeah, I'm disorganized. I have wild ADHD."
Uh, I mean,
Do
I
it
didn't
now.
say it that
Do it
well,
now. Don't not like I'm apologizing and I understand that I'm sorry that I'm crying, but it's okay. Just be like, "Yeah, man, I have ADHD."
yeah, I think that
Do
I
it.
say I have ADHD, I'm disorganized. It's hard for me to stick to schedules unless you are my patient, even occasionally then.
No, harder. Brag. Brag to me about your ADHD.
Oh, I can brag to you about my ADHD. I mean, I think that it probably makes me a more fun and creative person. It makes me more forgiving of others. I think that being a stickler about times and being organized, it makes some sense. But, there are lots of cultures in this world that think that it's perfectly okay to arrive 2 hours late to something. So it's not objectively a bad trait. Why are you making that face at me?
I'm sorry. It's not
What?
objectively a bad trait, is your way of bragging. Honey, I've heard you brag more than that.
I mean, I don't think that being late for shit is something to brag about.
Try it just for me. Try it just for the fun of opposite action. I want to see what happens. Humor me.
Uh, I just don't feel like you're gonna feel this way once I'm late for something with you that you really needed me to be on time for.
Whew,
So,
man,
uh,
you're a
well,
tough therapy patient.
I think it's hard for, well, yeah, I am a tough therapy patient. I dodge everything. What's there
I'll
to be
do it.
proud of?
I
Okay.
have wild amounts of ADHD. I can walk on the street
Hmm.
in lost in thought and literally not see anything. I've had friends wave in front of me and I do not see them. I've
Well,
played video games or done things where I like literally go into another world and the rest of the world. I've like most movies that I watch, I don't remember.
I
That's
mean,
why it's
that's
so, and you know
amazing.
what? I love it because I could watch a movie over and over again and it's still surprising. Like I'm like, what's gonna happen? And Alex will be like, we watched this like 2 weeks ago. So
Oh, how
yeah,
do I
that's
do
what I
that?
mean by opposite action. What if we leaned into the yes, I have been made fun of it, made fun of for it.
I am disorganized, and that's okay because super organized people are often kind of boring and anal, and they care too much about stupid things. And I feel like I care about the things that have more substance and matter. And I apologize to anybody who's really organized.
You don't want to slam other people for it. It's been interesting. I've never actually tried opposite action with you, but it is.
Just so everyone knows, my fiance is super organized and I love him more than anyone. So, it's really, but I do think that sometimes my brain works by filtering out the shit that isn't as important to me. But other people disagree with those assessments that I make.
How does that feel? I mean, like
Um,
solid B plus, I would say, in
yeah.
terms of opposite action. I didn't hear much bragging. I heard much like, stoic defensive-ness, but sure.
I don't really know I don't really know how being disorganized benefits me. I think that's hard to I'm finding it hard to find.
Mm, mm.
How do you think being disorganized benefits me? Give me some ideas.
It's not the point. Anyway, everyone is still confused on what we're doing. Um, there could be all these different applications of all the cognitive behavioral therapy skills that we know when you're feeling dysphoric, rejection dysphoric, right? So all these different emotion regulation skills that we've talked about. One is what I think this is the one that you're leaning towards, which is the cognitive ones of like talking your way through it and really being like, okay, is this the worst thing? Am I, am I, hateable and rejectable and terrible? And is the world going to end because of this criticism? Is it possible that they're not even criticizing me? They mean something else, right? These are all like different ways of thinking. What I
And
was going for.
I do just want to make an asterisk about that one. So
Mhm.
a lot of the times people are like, yeah, well, arguing with myself doesn't work. But one thing that it can do, I actually worked with a patient earlier today who used a thought record to bring his emotion down. Um, and I was actually kind of surprised that it worked, but I think what happens and what we know happens is that even if arguing with yourself doesn't necessarily work, if you make yourself do the exercise of altering your catastrophic thinking and like coming up with other alternatives, you are leaving the lizard brain and entering the prefrontal
Mhm.
cortex. So you're in the part of the brain that is capable of regulating emotion. So even
Mhm.
just like labeling your emotions and, getting more into your control center can be helpful.
That is what I saw in the research that even just, I mean, this is the name it to tame it principle with emotion regulation. Like if you're feeling dysphoria, so sad from being rejected, you can say in that moment to yourself, I'm feeling RSD. Like right now, I'm in a dysphoric state. I'm really, really sad. I'm in pain because rejection is so painful for me. And that's what's going on. And I know it will pass. It's not the end of the world. It's not like, it might not be true, all the different thoughts that are floating through my head right now.
Hmm.
But here it is. Here's my cloud of shame. So they're just labeling it. It's just sometimes people knowing that it's called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and maybe that has more power than just calling it shame, right? Just
Hmm.
having like a psychological word for it, right? Like, come on, gaslighting is like a bunch of different stuff, but now that we have a term for it, we feel a little bit more empowered. So maybe just like
Yeah.
having the term RSD makes it sound more like, yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. There's also diffusion techniques that can work, literally singing to yourself, RSD, just like, or like rejection, 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 rejection. I'm a failure, 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 like so fast that the words start to lose meaning is a common technique as well. Talking to yourself in the voice of your least favorite politician. Now, Donald Trump is not everybody's least favorite politician, but he does make a really, really good one for this exercise because he has such a distinctive kind of voice and cartoonish way of talking. So imagining Trump saying to you, like, you're fired, or, you know, that was terrible, whatever the fuck he says, whatever. Just like using his voice, it can kind of give a humorous bent and also make it seem somewhat ridiculous. The the things you say to yourself. Like Kibby just gave us a bunch about how she's worthless and is going to fail at everything. That's actually shit that Trump says like over Twitter, right? And a lot of us look at that and we're like, wow, like that's ridiculous. When you can give your own voice that like Trump's voice, it can illustrate to you, you know, what you're doing to yourself.
Basically you're giving the inner critic inside you a different voice than your own and being like,
Mhm.
oh, there is the Trump voice again, or whatever you want to call it. I, I'm I'm realizing that I wouldn't I think I would call it opposite action. I think that when I was going into college, I had been so rejected, made fun of. I really felt like an outcast coming from high school to college, that
Mhm.
I had a lot of social anxiety. But then I think I walked around being like, yeah, I'm awkward. I'm an awkward person. I'm weird. I'm a weird kid, right? And I just like really leaned into it to the point where I feel like that just made me more comfortable with myself. And then with social rejection, it's interesting. As soon as you flip the inside, and so it's weird, it's a paradox. You're constantly looking for acceptance from other people. But when you have that goal, when you're actually like so externally focused for that validation, you're less
Mhm.
likely to get it, right? Like when you're desperate, people don't like that.
People smell it. Yeah.
So as soon as you say like I'm weird, I'm awkward, I have ADHD, like yeah, I mean it might not be like a great quality, but like I feel like the times I've owned up to the qualities I've had, um, as like and even just like see it as a strength, that usually changes like my vibe, and then I get that social acceptance from other people. So I mean
Yeah,
just
I think in general, like I do not hate having ADHD. I think it comes with a ton of benefits. Me needing a constant dopamine fix has meant that I've lived an interesting life. So I maybe have ADHD to thank for it. I think that helps with that shame around it to not just see myself as a broken person. There is something about being called out for it or my behavior being misinterpreted that's actually more maybe due to ADD is very painful to me. Um, but I think probably that is at least modulated by me not inherently like hating myself for it. So finding pride in your ADHD, I think can be really protective. Um, and I mean, like, you know, you can do some research about all the good that can come with ADHD. People with ADHD can tend to be more adventurous, more creative, more sociable, extroverted. In some people, they're not, right? Because they're avoiding social situations because of this component. So it's not like for sure, but ADHD has been associated with a lot of good things. And another thing I want to say, and I think I've said it in ADHD podcasts that we've done before, but leaning into how your brain works instead of constantly telling yourself that it's a problem can also be helpful. I see this the most with night owls and procrastinators. People who procrastinate, beating the shit out of themselves every single day up until the day they do it, then doing it at the last minute, turning it in and being like, well, if only I had done it earlier, then it would have been way better. And it's like, maybe, but maybe not. Like, maybe somebody who would do it earlier actually wouldn't have that big motivational push and like flow state that you get into when there is a lot of pressure. And so maybe it's not a problem to save everything to the last minute if you reliably do get it done. Our society also punishes night owls. It says that they're,
mhm.
you know, young, immature, whatever. It's like, why? That's just a circadian rhythm. If you're a night owl, be a night owl until there's a really compelling reason not to be, like having a kid who wakes up screaming at 6 in the morning. So, you know, really think about like, are my symptoms actually a problem, or have I just been taught by society that it's a problem?
Yeah.
Are my symptoms actually an issue broadly, or is it just this one environment that we're in? We know that our schools are run in a very particular way that is not best for everybody's learning style. That doesn't mean anybody's stupid. That means that maybe they just don't learn by sitting being bored for 8 hours a day, starting way early in the morning and being droned at for forever. there might be other ways to make your brain have superpowers. So discovering that as well. I like working with people with ADHD and trying to restructure some of these beliefs that they have about themselves because I think a lot of actually ADHD symptoms can go down because I think there's a big um, interaction effect with anxiety and self-hatred. If you have low self-esteem, you will do poorer at things generally
Mhm.
because you don't believe in yourself to improve.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this extends beyond ADHD. I think we're talking about here is the antidote to RSD, the antidote to rejection sensitivity dysphoria, is to try to lean hard into the self-love and self-acceptance. And as you were talking, I was just thinking about my past few weeks, and I was like, oh no, I really had some. I had, I would feel like it's depression, or I feel like it's my rumination over like how I'm not good enough. And it was like last week. Yeah, it was last week. I had this spell where I was just, we're trying to be more public facing, get on Instagram and do this and, start a business. And I was beating myself up because I saw other people online be more braggy about themselves, be just more like, this is why I'm amazing. You should follow me because I know more than you. And I was laying in bed and Alex was asking if I was okay. And I couldn't even talk. Like I was so upset. I said, don't, I'm not able to do that. I have been horrible about self promotion. I, I don't even know what my strengths are beyond being able to read and bolster up other people. Like I've just been so steeped in thinking about, the community and how painful it can be to be like the carer or like someone or the people pleaser, that someone who's defined their identity through being able to read other people and focus on their needs and just ignore their own, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I don't know how to stand up and say I'm amazing, I've had this, I have this quality, right? Like even just the bravado and ego that actually works, right? The self-promotion. And then I went into like a spiral for a while, you know this because I've also texted you being why do people like me? But I think I tried to intentionally lean in and decide like I'm not really going to get this blessing from the universe that I'm worthy or that people like me, but I'm just going to be like, that is my strength. I'm able to read other people really well. And I'm going to lean into accepting and being proud of that and not being like, oh, I'm going to be rejected, not be successful because that I'm other oriented. So I think that's just that. I guess that's my personal story lately of how I'm trying to overcome my RSD by saying, this is who I am. Like, I have ADHD. I don't notice things around me. I don't remember any movies that we're watching.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to focus on other people, and I'm way better when I'm bouncing off someone than when I'm alone in a room telling people why they should trust me. That's just who I am. And some days I'm crushed with like, I'm not worthy for it. And other days I just have to be like, no, this is who I am. Right.
Yeah, I think I do feel that way most of the time. And then when a supervisor is like above me on in the hierarchy, points something out, then I feel like something's at stake. And so there's that element too. It's really hard not to take the bait of you saying that there's something wrong with you for not being able to basically have zero humility and like pitch yourself as if you're the Messiah. Like we would get so punished for that in grad school. It would be unreal.
Right. That's why I felt very comfortable in like the in the therapy setting. That's why I'm
Mhm.
comfortable here talking to you because I feel like I could disappear into you.
Mhm.
I'm looking at myself right now. It's making my stomach turn. Right. So it's really reinforced. And if you're a caregiver, if you're a mom, if you are, the parentified kid, yeah, being a people pleaser is really reinforced. But then if you have to, let's say, make a reel on Instagram telling people why they should trust you over anyone else,
Yeah.
So I'm running up against my own like areas of I like don't have what it takes, but then I just have to keep leaning in and being like, all right, I know we've known in our clients, we see it when people are obsessed with reading rejection in others, it creates the rejection, right? You either
Hmm.
don't show yourself, you either act in ways that do get the rejection, you're reading that, you like, if you, I hate that this is such a manifestation mindset thing, but like if you have the mindset, I'm rejectable,
Yeah.
you tend to get more rejected. And the moment where you're like, I'm the shit, like people start treating you like the shit. That's my self-esteem,
Manifest.
anti-rejection tip.
Oh, we should do an episode on manifestation.
Oh boy. Okay. Okay. Let's see if
Because
there's actual research on it.
yeah, well, it works in a lot of them. I'm not saying I'm gonna like manifest, having a pet pink dolphin, and then it's gonna magically show up. But anyway, we'll save it for that episode. I think that a lot of times when we feel really rejected, what we're often being criticized for is the dark side of one of our assets. So you gave an example where you have an asset of humility. The dark side of it is that it's difficult to self-promote. Um, I think people with ADHD have, a light side of being fun and spontaneous and a dark side of being disorganized or, less methodical. A lot of the times, like the very things we love ourselves for, they don't work in every single context. And then we get rejected and then we feel like shit, but we're not really meant to work in every single context.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think maybe just being able to tune into like, okay, this is an example maybe of my asset not working in this exact context, but it doesn't mean that I'm missing an asset.
Mhm. Yep. I would agree.
Anything else?
No, I think that's good. I think we've figured out that RSD is intense shame. That's our working hypothesis. And maybe we have weird reactions to shame in ways that society is recognizing or grappling with compared to other times.
Hmm.
But it'll be interesting. Yeah, this is a really popular topic. It's just interesting to piece apart, like how, like from a diagnosis standpoint, like what is this?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a well-defined construct. It doesn't feel paired apart from shame enough. It'd be interesting to look more into the neurobiological research to see are there actually like activated brain structures that are unique to ADHD truly. Like I remember actually growing up, my mom said, I think you have like a larger anterior cingulate or something, which is like a part of the brain that can be sensitive to shame and rejection. Because I would get like very like, I was like a really good kid because I was terrified of getting called out. I still have a memory of in first grade, I was talking, the student teacher goes, Jack. I was like, so clearly I had this going on a long time, a long time ago. Um, but yeah, I don't know. The jury's out for me on whether this is truly specific to ADHD, even though there's evidence for it. I just wonder if that is an operationally, wow, if RSD maybe is being studied more in things like ADHD and shame is being studied more in BPD. If it's an operationalization, I can't say that word. Say it. Operationalization.
Operationalization. No?
Okay. Yeah, I think so. She,
Everyone hates rejection. Some people hate it a lot.
yeah.
And it hurts. That's the end.
And people who have been like criticized and picked on their whole lives probably hate it a little bit more. And people who have behaviors that are going to get them criticized and picked on, like people with ADHD, are, good candidates for that. So I don't know. That seems to be the most running hypothesis, but maybe more
Well, I
research.
mean, this is stuff that we do in the community and in the Cool of Mind community. We're going to do different kinds of skills and exercises to actually work through this rejection sensitivity. So, because I know that a lot of people who are caring for others a lot are like people pleasers. So, well, if you're
Mhm.
interested, coolofmind.com.
Cool
And
beans. I
then,
think this is pretty easy tie-in to you don't want to make me feel rejection sensitive, so give us 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please, somebody tell Kibby what she's good at
Just
so that
follow me on Coola Mind on Instagram. That's all I care about. All I care about. I'm working so
yeah.
hard, folks. This is like a real growth edge. Okay, I'm
Sign up for
trying.
Cool, sign up for the community. We'll be doing workshops, and we'll see you next week. By accessing this podcast, I acknowledge that the hosts of this podcast make no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast and any and all content or services available on or through this podcast are provided for general, non-commercial informational purposes only and do not constitute the practice of medical or any other professional judgment, advice, diagnosis, or treatment, and should not be considered or used as a substitute for the independent professional judgment, advice, diagnosis, or treatment of a duly licensed and qualified healthcare provider. In case of a medical emergency, you should immediately call 911. The hosts do not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement.